Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fortune Hotel. And things are really starting to heat up in episode 3. Not only have we got another couple who has the early checkout card, but the power will be switched by the end of the episode. And I gotta say, it's actually one of the most unpredictable episodes yet. And I know I'm gonna keep saying that every single episode, but guys, this show just keeps on upping and upping and upping. I think ITV have got such a gem on their hands, and if they don't fumble it, this could genuinely be the rival to the Traitors. So, before we get into the episode, make sure to like that comment button. Oh my god, that was not the right thing at all. I hope you guys are enjoying. Make sure to subscribe, press the like button, and comment down below. But before we get into the episode, I just want to say thank you guys very, very much. And let's now get on with the episode. So, the couple that ended up with the early checkout card was, unfortunately, Gary and Leslie. And it really does feel like, at the moment, the early checkout card, if you have it from the start, you're doomed to go home with it. Because in the last episode, Abby and Tracy got it, and they were doomed to go home. So it's not really looking likely that Gary and Leslie are going to get out of this. I thought it was interesting that they decided to choose Gary and Leslie. I think they're a non-threatening couple, so I don't know whether I would have personally chosen them for it. I think I probably would have gone for someone else that I thought might have been more of a threat further down the line, like Susan and Jen. But also, I understand why they didn't do that, because the whole point of it was that they were trying to pin it on someone that wouldn't think it was them. That's Will and Joanne, this is. So I think it was a smart decision. I think I personally would have chosen Susan and Jen, or I would have chosen someone else and just cause a little bit of chaos. But either way, I think this was a interesting choice, and it definitely did pan out well by the end of the episode. So, the group was called to the lobby and an announcement was made by Stephen. And Stephen basically said, there's a new twist in this game. And I went, oh no, I don't like twists. I'm joking, I absolutely love them. But it does make me think, what other stuff are they going to pull on us? I think there's a lot to talk about here, because the show has now taken a little bit of a left turn. Now, if you end up with the case at the end of the night, you are able to deposit £10,000 from the prize fund, which you keep regardless of where you come in the competition. That's game-changing. That's absolutely game-changing. And it means that if you just happen to end up with the case with the money in one night, you could end up winning more than the entire cast of Josh Must Win did. Which I think is a little bit of a piss take, but it just shows that the stakes on this show are so, so high, and I actually do like the fact that this is a interesting new plot twist, because I think it makes people more willing to chase the money. I think before everyone was like, we'll just wait to chase the money. But now it's like, we could get £10,000 if we correctly guess. So I think it's probably a good idea to get the case. Unfortunately, someone wasn't entirely happy about this. Aisha, I think that's her name, just didn't seem particularly enthralled by that, decision. And everyone started picking up on that and wondering whether they actually had the money, and whether they were very reluctant to change because they didn't want to lose the cash that they had. I think it's an interesting, proposition. They're wrong, but from the evidence they've got, it is very interesting that they went straight to Sam and Aisha to be like, they must have it because of their reaction to this plot twist. I think Aisha was just like, oh, well, if we win at the end, we're not going to win the full prize fund. And that's a bit of a piss take, which I do kind of agree with. But it's not the end of the world, is it? You're still getting a significant amount of money, so I wouldn't shake my head about that. So, when it came to the room service challenge, I thought this was a very interesting way to show who's aligned with who is going to make a good decision here, etc., etc. And I also think that it's a case of they have decided to do this challenge in order to give one couple the opportunity to sneak a peek or exchange. So it gives just an extra level of power to whoever wins this competition. The other competition obviously decides the order, but this one is important for one couple and one couple only. So the whole idea of this challenge was that it was like facts about people and they had to guess who the fact was about. There was at one point where Joanne was like, oh, I really wanted it to be decoupage. And I was like, huh? Decoupage? What? Honestly, Joanne actually might be my favourite person on this show. She's so funny. And every single word that she says cracks me up. Absolutely has me howling. So yeah, I'm really vibing with it currently with the whole cast. I don't think there's anyone on this cast that I'm like, ooh, don't like you. Susan and Jen can get on my nerves sometimes, and yeah, that's about it. But anyway, moving on to the actual task itself, the little information bits, very, very funny. They weren't just like, oh, this person likes horses. This person eats an apple every day for breakfast. They were actually like juicy little secrets. So apparently Gary got his arm trapped in a van window somehow. I don't know quite how you do that, but it sounds like a Gary thing to do. Then we had Joanne, apparently has a cherry tattoo on her ass. That's very funny. I did not expect it to be Joanne. That was a big surprise. I thought it was going to be Cherish or Jay. Or even, I don't know. I don't know, actually. Maybe Leslie? No, I don't know. I feel like that's more of a Cherish and Jay thing. Than Joanne. I just didn't expect the mum to have a cherry tattoo on her backside. That took me off guard. Then we had who took a poo in a plant pot and was it got caught or something like that? Got caught taking a poo in a plant pot. Apparently, it was Michael. Yeah, that one was embarrassing to find out. That one wasn't fun. Apparently, Adam got invited into a shower whilst he was cleaning someone's windows, which is a crazy statement. I never thought I'd be saying that, but apparently that is exactly what happened. And then we also had, oh no, that was it. There was like a couple of others, but they weren't actually that interesting. But that was pretty much the main bulk of them. Gary and Leslie fortunately won. They actually did guess the most amount correct, which was really, really good. And it put them in a very, very interesting position because now obviously they've got the whole, do we stick or do we twist? Do we peek or do we get rid of our case? I said in the last episode, Abby and Tracy, the smartest thing they could have done is kept the case until the end, and then they could have swapped it with the two people that were below them, and then they would have been fine. Gary and Leslie decided to take that strategy. Obviously, it was a little bit riskier because they had to... What's the word I'm looking for? They had to basically still play the game later on, and it might not have worked out in their favour, but it was still a good opportunity to work out, basically, can we find out any more information? They decided to go peek at Jen and Sarah's. Jen and Sarah do not have the money. They don't even have anything close to the money. So I feel like this is a little bit of a wasted opportunity, but it did give them the knowledge that they don't have the money, and therefore they are not the ones that targeted them. I think that's the whole vibe that they were going for. But they still learnt something. Let's move on to the main challenge. The idea of this challenge was a rubber ring rapids race. It was interesting. They had to go on rubber rings down a rapids, collect different cans, but this time they were playing in teams. They split the group in half, and half of them were the red team, half of them were the blue team, I think. And they basically just had to collect as many cans as possible. Yeah. It was a little bit dodgy, I think. Yeah. Joanne unfortunately fell out of her rubber ring and started getting really panicky. And Claire, who was on the opposite team, stopped and helped her out and made sure she was okay. But then Dan was like, just leave her, just leave, like, just finish the race, like, just get on with it, get on. And I was like, Dan, this woman is very, very clearly struggling. Your wife is being an absolute gemstone and helping her out. Can you just, like, chill for a second? Because it's not like there's a time limit on this. It's just until you get to the end. So just chill the fuck out, please. Because this, like, Joanne is, like, in her 50s or 60s, I can't remember which one. And she's genuinely just having a bit of a moment, freaking out. Because, like, I'm not being funny. If you get lost in the rapids, it's not fun. So I can understand why she was getting panicky. Just chill your beans for a second. I'd have kicked off at Dan. I'd have really kicked off. But anyway, so they managed to get to the end. All the teams managed to get to the end, and then they revealed the scores. And the scores, guys, the scores were bad. The blue team managed to get 83 cans across the 4 different heats. The red team managed to get 149. It wasn't even close. It was almost double. Oh god, it was quite something, is what it was. It was quite embarrassing, is what it was to watch. Some of them were really, really good. Adam and Michael were really, really good. Will was quite good. Gary was all right. Everyone else kind of let the side down a little bit, just a touch. But it is fine because the other 4 then had to pick a can. Highest number got to choose the order. Dan and Claire obviously won. Oh god, Dan and Claire, I feel like have really made a rod for their own back, in the sense of, like, they are the threat of the show at the moment. So any chance that people get, they're going to take them out unless they're playing unfairly. So I feel like this was just an absolute nail in the coffin for Gary and Leslie, because they got to just decide who went first, and if they were basing it off of the challenge, which they ended up doing, Gary and Leslie could end up last, which isn't ideal, not even in the slightest. So we are going to move on to the Lady Luck bar and the swapping. I am going to preface this by, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of episode 4 as well, because they kind of left us on a really stupid cliffhanger, and I really get angry when they do that and they leave us in the middle of, like, basically the middle of an episode. Because what do you mean we faffed about all this time, we haven't got time to finish off the thing? It's like why I got so annoyed with US Traitors when they just ended the round table halfway through, and I was like, why? Just finish the episode. It's not like you've got to keep to, like, adverts or anything like ITV does. You could just anyway, that's a complete separate rant for another day. This rant is basically, can you just make sure the format is the same every single episode, because it's just getting a bit bullshit otherwise. Anyway, moving on. Let me move on before I get too heated about that. So Gary and Leslie were obviously picked to go first, and people genuinely did believe that they had the early checkout card, so they decided to give it to Sam and Aisha, which I thought was an interesting choice, because I think Sam and Aisha were the ones that would fuck shit up if they needed to, which I think was then a good choice for Gary and Leslie. Anybody else would have probably just given it back to them, but I think there was a chance Sam and Aisha would not give it back to them. Will and Joanne gave theirs to Michael and Adam. This was a big move. Big move, and I'll tell you why. Michael and Adam trust them completely, but giving them the case with the cash and allowing them to deposit £10,000 will not only get them to trust them a little bit more, but also keep them sweet as well. They can be like, well, we gave you the case and gifted you £10,000. We could have kept it. We could have. But we gave it to you, gave you 10 grand, and now we have an alliance. It's that trust thing. Yes, we're sorry that we lied to you about having the money, but now you know where the money is. We can just keep swapping it backwards and forwards, and we can take the 10 grand each night. Susan and Jen decided to keep their case. Adam and Michael decided to keep their case, obviously, because they trust that Will and Joanna are kosher. Cherish and Jay also keeping their case. Now, this is where the episode ended, with Sam and Aisha basically doing their usual monologues, the usual monologues of like, ooh, should I do this? Ooh, this would be a good idea. Ooh, but I could do this. And I was sitting there going, the worst possible decision they could make is giving it to Gary and Leslie. They have got a lot of strong competitors below them. Will and Joanne, strong competitors. They've got Susan and Jen, also strong competitors. Adam and Michael, one of the stronger pairs, probably just below Dan and Claire. So why would they give it back to Gary and Leslie? It just doesn't make sense from a game point of view. Take out your competition. Don't take out people who can easily beat you. Because, I'm sorry, Sam and Aisha, you ain't won anything yet. Like, nada. I mean, you won today's challenge, granted. But, also, that was a team effort. So, do you know what I mean? It's just, it is frustrating when they end the episode and it's like, ooh, what's the cliffhanger going to be? And I was like, right, well, I've got to watch the next episode now. So I clicked on it. They gave it to Gary and Leslie. And I was like, oh, do you understand how angry I'd have been if I'd have waited a whole day for that? Do you understand how raging I would be? Because what do you mean you're just giving it to the people who just gave it to you? Can we get some more interesting gameplay on this show, please? Because currently, it's best friends race. Anyway, let's just finish off the Lady Luck bar, say goodbye to Gary and Leslie, and then we'll end the episode. Tommy and Scott decided to give their case to Will and Joanne, which meant Will and Joanne's case, which was actually Michael and Adam's case, then ended up going to Tommy and Scott. So now Tommy and Scott's case is with Will and Joanne. Will and Joanne's case is with Michael and Adam. And Michael and Adam's case is with Tommy and Scott. My brain hurts a lot. Yeah. Then we've got Dan and Claire. Dan and Claire decided to swap with Sam and Aisha, which meant they had Sam and Aisha's original case. And Sam and Aisha had Dan and Claire's case. So there was a lot of swapping tonight. And I'm a little bit confused about what happened, but we move. It's fine. We're chill. Unfortunately, Gary and Leslie did end up with the early checkout card. And these guys are funny, funny people. When they first got the early checkout card in this episode, Gary was like, what's this? What's this mean? What's this mean? And Leslie was like, I think it's the early checkout card. I think it might be that. And then Gary was like, well, who gave it to us? Who's giving it to us then? And Leslie's like, well, probably the ones with the money, innit? Funny, dry comedy. Was it meant to be funny? Probably not. Did I find it absolutely hysterical? 100%. I am going to miss these two. And it's a shame because I feel like they did everything properly. The only thing that shafted them was Dan and Claire putting them last in the rankings. If they'd have come anywhere but last, they'd have been absolutely fine. In fact, Will and Joanne might have been going home in this episode. So who knows? But that is all we have got time for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. And do all of those YouTube things that you are enjoying so much at the moment. And I will see you guys in a hot minute. Catch you later. Bye now.